Tonight, in the final leg of the Daytona Tour, it comes down to this: 6 men, 4 spots, 400 miles at the Daytona International Superspeedway for the running of the Pepsi 400, the regular season finale. After the third place finish last on Sunday at the Daytona Road Course, Jimmy Johnson has clinched the regular season championship, which means he will be reseeded third with teammate Jeff Gordon behind him in second. This is here tonight. Gorgeous night for a weather on the last Saturday in August. The Daytona International Speedway. 2.5 mile super speedway, one of 2 restrictor plate races on the Winston Cup circuit. With a Daytona 500 in February. Last restrictor plate race was at Talladega in April. Bobby Labonte won that event after... And we got a problem already in qualifying. They brought the same car here from the Daytona 500, which we won that event. Obviously look for guys like the DEI guys, the Childress guys, anybody with a Chevy to be good tonight. Coming to the green flag, you want to be pushing at least 180 miles an hour. You're going to be going pretty fast, I should say. About 188. Since this is a restrictor plate race, there is not really a set groove that you need to race in. You basically go where the line's fast. If the line's fast on the bottom, you go on the bottom. If the line's fast up top, you go up top. If the line's fast in the middle, you bet your butt you're going into the middle. Just a reminder that the 6 drivers that are looking for spots in the 4-man chase, it's basically a game of musical chairs. Ryan Newman, Matt Kenseth, their goals tonight is to finish. Kevin Harvick and Michael Waltrip, they're a little nervous. Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch, they need to pray for a good run, but since this is a restrictor plate track, anybody, as long as they're in the top 30, can win and take a playoff spot and could possibly bump a guy like Waltrip or Harvick out, depending on how tonight's event shakes out. Coming through 3 and 4, we got a rocket ship in our car tonight. Coming on to the Daytona Super Stretch. This will put us on the pole. Everybody thinks these restricted plate races are always exciting and filled with a lot of drama. Why not throw in a little playoff pressure tonight?
Tonight, it's Super Speedway action under the lights. MRN is live at the Daytona International Speedway this evening with flag-to-flag coverage of the Pepsi 400. This track is known by everyone, race fan or not. But for these race teams, it's a glory all its own when you can get a win here.
The list of former winners here is very prestigious indeed. Who wouldn't want their name to be on it? Who knows, maybe we'll add another lucky driver when this one's all over.
The Napa car will try to use this race to gain a couple spots in the points.
He's been working hard this season, and it is paying off so far. You'll need a good finish in this one to gain some spots.
Rusty Wallace was the 1989 Winston Cup champion in one of the closest point races in NASCAR history.
Well, that was a pretty exciting weekend in Atlanta. Earnhardt dominated and won the race, but Rusty battled to a 15th place finish. That was good enough to edge the Intimidator by 12 points.
Ken Schrader hasn't made much of a move in the points so far.
And how frustrating that must be. You're working just as hard as everyone else, yet you just can't seem to finish well on race days to gain the valuable points you need. These guys need a good finish just to regain their confidence as a team.
Gentlemen, start your engines. And here's the starting lineup for the race. In the front row are the NASCAR and the UPS Ford. In the second row are the Interstate Batteries Pontiac and the Motorcraft Ford. Starting the race from row 3 are the Kodak Chevrolet and the 27 car. The fourth row has the 98 car and the GM Goodrich Service Plus Chevrolet. Starting the race from row 5 will be the DuPont Chevrolet and the Mark Martin Ford. In row 6 we have the Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet and the Kellogg Chevrolet. Starting from row 7 will be the Pennzoil Chevrolet and the Singular Wireless Chevrolet. Jimmy Johnson, the NASCAR Winston Cup points leader, will start towards the front. And in row 9 are Youngstown Ford and the Target Dodge. Starting in row 10 will be the Ganassi Racing Dodge and the Square D Chevrolet. In row 11 are the 63 car and the Home Depot Pontiac. In row 12 are the Team Rusty Ford and the 49 car. Row 13 finds the Dale Jr. Chevrolet and the Citgo Ford. The 14th row has the 10 car and the Dodge dealer's UAW Dodge. In row 15 are the Rubbermaid Ford and the Hamelin Ford. Starting the race from row 16 are the M&M's Pontiac and the DeWalt Power Tools Ford. Row 17 has the Sirius Satellite Radio Dodge and the 26 car. Starting in row 18 will be the Caterpillar Dodge and the 25 car. In row 19 are the Cheerios Dodge and the Sprint Dodge. In row 20 are the Tide Ford and the Dodge dealer's UAW Dodge. Back in row 21 we have the 16 car and the 23 car. And rounding out the field is the 46 car.
That's your starting lineup for tonight's Pepsi 400. Dylan Murway laid down a blistering lap Thursday night. Starting next to Dale Jarrett on the outside. Talladega winner Bobby Labonte starts third. And of those 6 drivers I mentioned earlier, Kevin Harvick got a great start to the weekend by starting 8th. At the end of the night, we find out the 16 playoff drivers. Michael Waltrip also starts up in the top 10. Pace car is off. The regular season finale is underway from Daytona. Elliott Sadler being pushed out front by the 83 and Dylan Murway. Everybody pointed to him as the car to beat. He had a very strong car here in the Daytona 500 all the way back in February. Everybody's saying he's the guy to watch. Sadler goes high. Skinner drops down to give Dylan a push and gives him 5 bonus points to lead the first lap here at the Pepsi 400. Looks like the field is pretty tame. The outside lane is pretty much dropped off. Gordon's trying to look to the outside, and he falls back in line. Gordon then tries to look to the inside of Skinner, and there he goes. Like I was saying earlier, you don't really need to tell what specific groove you need to be in at these super speedway tracks. It all comes down to who can you get pushing you. Whether that be 2 or 3 Chevrolets in the line, 2 or 3 Fords, 2 or 3 Dodges, or 2 or 3 Pontiacs. The more of the same manufacturer and motors you get lined up, the faster your line's going to go. Obviously, the leader controls the energy. As you see typically in the big packs, as you see Dylan Murway's taking the entire field to Gapplebee's to order a 6-for-6 buffet. The leader in these super speedway races determines what energy goes. That's why usually later on, as the laps tick down and the likelihood of intensity is really going to start picking up for these cars, for these drivers, you're going to see a lot of crazy blocks. You're going to see the leaders of the packs go top to bottom, up and down, trying to control the momentum and control the energy of the field behind them. And look at this. That mirror, if you're going on board the 83 car with Dylan Murway, the second place car was Mike Skinner a lap ago. You don't even see a yellow dot. Even after having engine issues in qualifying, changed it, got a new setup, qualified on the pole Thursday night, and he has taken the field to school early here in the Pepsi 400. Kevin Harvick did get shuffled out of the top 5. You kind of saw briefly. So did the 4-car Mike Skinner. He's hanging on barely in 5th. Mark Martin, who's been a model of consistency until the past couple weeks during this Florida tour, is currently in 4th. All Jimmy Johnson needs to do is finish. He's already got the regular season title clinched. So his goal, he's automatically going to be seated 3rd because he has that 1 win at Bristol. If he gets an extra win, that would still keep him 3rd because the closest guy to him would be Jeff Gordon, who's his teammate and his co-owner, and his 4 victories this year. Yeah, the pack is gone right now for Dylan Murway in the 83. That field has all been taken to a big catering party at Gapplebee's. And yeah, Dylan left with the bill and everybody's chasing him. Matter of fact, I don't even think anybody's going to chase him tonight because look at this. He is pulling away by himself at the restrictor plate tracks. Not even the DEI cars did that. Well, unless you're talking Dale Jr. and Tony Erie. They are absolute legends at places like this. The entire DEI team are legends at restrictor plate tracks. In fact, if you see in the NASCAR Thunder 2004 schedule, for the 4th of July weekend next year, we're going to a new track, a new super speedway in Orlando, Florida, that is a bit different than Daytona and Talladega. And I mean very different. 3 miles long. You're facing counterclockwise, so all the corners are turning right. And there are no restrictor plates at this track. Saturday night, July 4th weekend, prime time racing. Oh, baby. That is going to be a wild card. That was announced earlier today. Or that was announced back in March, I should say. The schedule was released at the beginning of the times were released at the beginning of the month. That's going to be a Saturday night race. A lot of concerns due to the fact that there are no restrictor plates. They are supposed to conduct a tire test at Tiburon in October, so drivers can know what to expect with the wear. In fact, they're going to be testing smaller fuel cells as well in an effort to hopefully break up the big 20 plus car packs that you see at the Daytona and Talladega, and now the third race at Tiburon. What the fuck? We are coming out of turn 4 as we speak. And Dylan Murway has led the first quarter of this race. All 10 laps that have ran. And he has taken the field to school. While further back, the second pack is starting to split off from the rest of the field. Coming past start finish now. Dylan Murway is literally in turn 2 as we speak. And he is gone. And the only problem of having fast setups like this, you blow through a lot of fuel. There isn't really a lot of fall off in terms of speed each lap, but you keep notice on that screen, on our fuel gauge, it is starting to tick down a lot more. The Winston Cup Series and NASCAR are actually looking at smaller fuel cells that are going to be tested out at next year's Budweiser Shootout at Daytona, which the effort to this will cause drivers to pit more, reducing the small packs and the concerns for the big wreck. We had that concern here in February. We had the concern at Talladega in April. All those, the possibility of a big wreck. A lot of cars in tight spaces. One slight move can easily ruin the hopes of a lot of drivers. You miss a block, suddenly 15 cars get taken out. 13 laps complete in the Pepsi 400, and there is some more separation in the rest of the field, which that's all we can watch. That's actually good racing. As Dylan Murway is basically running glorified qualifying laps. The way his setup is read, what's a draft to him? He's pushing 193 consistently. When typically when guys do another setup, like got a couple stragglers at the back, guys like Craven and Kimmel, they're driving 172. So as of right now, those two cars are just about getting to turn 3. Dylan Murway is at the start-finish line right now. 13 laps complete. We are working lap 14. We are watching the 6 drivers set up the field. As is tradition with these restrictor plate tracks, you are going to see a lot of position changing by the time this is over. So those 6 drivers I talked about earlier, there's going to be a lot of sweating in those pits. We already got a couple small cars entering pit that are exiting pit road. Jimmy Spencer, who is at the point where he needs a win to get into the playoffs. No ifs, ands, or buts. Ifs, ands, buts, maybes, or babies. Ryan Newman, he is one of the drivers that, as of right now, he is highest in points. So his goal, along with the 17 at Kenseth, finish. Don't get caught up in any accidents. Don't get torn up. Kurt Busch, he is on the outside, second guy out after the past couple weeks, and someone could say he might need to win as well, to be 100% honest. Harvick, he does have the points accumulated. However, after finishing 40th at the road course on Sunday, he is kind of in the danger zone. So if he were to have a problem, his goal would be have a repeat winner and pray that Michael Waltrip doesn't finish better than you. Because Waltrip's got about 31 points on Craven. We haven't seen him yet tonight. There is a little bit of tire fall off by about lap 17 up to this point. Not by much, a little bit of speed fall off as well, about 2 or 3 miles an hour, or 4 or 5 more likely. Dylan Murway's pushing 193 right now with this setup, and we can't really tell how the rest of the things are shaking out. So we might pit the next 6 or 7 laps, give or take. Well, 4 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour now. 5 miles an hour fall off in the corners, and then looking through the rest of the pack, they're starting to really get a lot more spread out because of pit stops. But as of right now, nobody is catching Dylan Murway. He had a pretty similar performance earlier this year at Loudon, where nobody passed him under green flag conditions. He had pretty similar performance at Watkins Glen too. Nobody passed him, period. Except for in the pits. But in terms of on-track passes, nobody caught him at the Glen, nobody caught him at Loudon, and nobody's catching him tonight, as we're just a couple laps before halfway. We're hauling at a pretty good speed right now. Coming through turns 3 and 4. We would like to remind you some of the preview notes for next year's schedule for the NASCAR 2004 season. The round of 8 is going to look pretty similar to how the round of 8 looks in real life, with Las Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville. However, the second Las Vegas race, which obviously was replaced by the night Watkins Glen part of the doubleheader, that will be in the round of 8. That will also be a night race to differentiate from the race in March. Kansas gets a day race in the round of 16. The Rock second race moves from a cut race this year to a round of 12 spot next year. And that also will be a night race. The All-Star race will still be a Wednesday night. The Kansas race, Kansas will get a second spring race. That will be under the lights. 3 races in June. Dover will be one of the 3. That will be a day race. Obviously, the Tiburon I mentioned earlier. We do have one points weeknight race. That is the second Atlanta race. That will be Thursday night. Chicagoland will still get a night race. Martinsville in the spring will be run on Eastern nights. Will be a Saturday night race. Richmond will get a Sunday. We'll get a Saturday night race next year. That hasn't changed since virtually nothing else is going on in this race. Figured go over a couple schedule notes. Next year, in terms of wrestling, in the Memorial Day pay-per-view I've been doing every year, it was in Oklahoma this year. Next year, it will be moving to Colorado Springs, near the Air Force Academy. As you see Dylan Murway peeling onto pit road. No fuel, no damage repair. Dylan's coming down pit road. See if there's anything else happening here. As Dylan comes to the attention of his team for the first time tonight. As we got a car smoking on the apron. And clear to see who that is. It's a white and red car that's smoking. We'll figure that out here shortly. They're smoking on the apron. We got one coming on turn 2. They're saying might be Harvick. Kevin Harvick with a huge problem. Oh my. That just made things even more interesting. Now, with Harvick kind of having a better month of August, all he can pray right now is watch. As he's got a blown motor, he's bringing the car around, not what his team needed, not what his playoff hopes needed. Now, with about 17 to go, all he can do is sit and pray. Hope that Waltrip doesn't have an amazing run and a caution doesn't come out, or a caution comes out and Waltrip gets an amazing run. And he's got to pray Kurt Busch or Ricky Craven don't get in. Harvick right now is probably going to be the biggest Dylan Murway fan right now in this race. And think, back in February, Kevin Harvick almost won the Daytona 500 in this season. In that 3-wide battle between himself, Dylan Murway, and Michael Waltrip, where Harvick had the inside. And we almost had a 3-wide finish. Oh my. Some more cars heading down pit road right now. And what has been glorified qualifying laps for the 83. I'd like to remind you again, next year's WWE Memorial Day Bash live event will take place in Colorado Springs on Memorial Day, Monday afternoon. near the Air Force Academy. 191 miles an hour. Dylan Murway is in ninth. He has not been passed at all on track. Now, there are reports of other drivers having possible issues as well with the motors. Coming through turns 3 and 4. You got Bobby Hamilton and Shane Hall in the top 5. They were on pit road. Dylan Murway flew by them like they were standing still, which has been the theme of the night for him. Going down the backstretch. Into turn 3. Caution-free affair. We've ran up to this point. We've had a caution-free affair at the nighttime Watkins Glen race on the first Friday in August. If you remember the recap, Dylan Murway won by a massive margin in that one. Going through 1 and 2. 13 to go. Going down into turn 3. Very blistering fast race. This is probably the fastest 400-mile race. One of the fastest in NASCAR history. Trying to look up some stats here. This is currently the shortest race in the Winston Cup Tour since the Winston 500 back in 1997, which was, if you remember, that was supposed to run in April. That race was rained out and actually held on a Saturday in May. Mark Martin won that event. And that race took a little over 2 hours. We're kind of in the same boat and same situation with this one. That race was caution-free. This race has been caution-free as we've reached 10 laps to go. We've completed 3/4 of this race. It has just been a clinic by Dylan Murway tonight. Coming through turn 4, heading into the start-finish line. We are watching points. Harvick is in the garage. He doesn't have as much points slipping away unless we were to get a caution immediately and get a new winner. So he does have a silver lining coming out of this. Meanwhile, Michael Waltrip, his goal, he's holding on. Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven, they're trying to get in. Trying to see if this shakes out. Nine laps to go now. Eight laps to go. Through 1 and 2, this has just been a very, very fast, very mind-numbing race that nothing has gone down at all since they've taken the green. About 2 hours ago, actually. He had pretty odd week. Blew his engine, changed it, qualified on the pole. And he's dominated this race. In fact, he actually sees lap traffic with 8 laps to go. Or 7 to go, I'm sorry. That's the 23 of Scott Wimmer and the 26 of Todd Bodine, both of which are non-factors. That did slow him down, though, because Dylan didn't want to run into Todd Bodine and cause a caution and ruin this thing. Flies by him like they were standing still. Cruising down the backstretch. 6 to go. This race has been caution-free. Dylan Murray's only passed probably 4 cars tonight. And half of them were on the first lap. After starting on the pole, kind of faded back a little bit on the start. But much outside of that, it's been caution-free up to this point. 5 laps to go in the Pepsi 400. And through 3-4 again. Obviously, this has just been absolute domination at a restrictor plate track. I don't think anybody outside of Junior and Tony Erie could even replicate this. 4 to go. Pulling away from an entire pack of cars by yourself with no momentum. Man, I don't even think Petty could be able to do that. And he's got 200 wins. And he's the king of NASCAR. Four laps to go. Coming out of turn number 4. That will be 3 to go at the line. Got a couple cars on pit road. I think I saw Terry Labonte down there. His playoff hopes are pretty much non-existent at this point. Kevin Harvick is hoping, praying he gets in. Since Tony Stewart won the Daytona Sand Course, bringing the winner total up to 12. We have 4 spots, 6 drivers. No idea where Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven are on the track. Right now, we're watching Kevin Harvick if he's able to hold on, and if Michael Waltrip is able to hold on as well and get a good performance. Remember, Harvick's also watching Ricky Craven as well as a possibility, since Harvick is in the garage right now. Craven's got to finish at least 10 spots ahead of Harvick if he wants to get in. And Waltrip's got to just have at least 3 spots ahead of Craven to get in, as we're doing some math, a little bit of mental math here in my head. As we come out of turns 3 and 4. Dylan Murray will see the white flag here at Daytona one more time around, sponsored by Credit One Bank. Anybody want to talk about dominance at tough tracks like this? They usually think of guys like Tony Stewart running the Memorial Day 1100 twice, running the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 in the same day, and doing pretty well in both of them. You could probably put that up on that list. Dylan Murray started on the pole after changing an engine. That engine was actually better than his primary. Won the pole, led the most laps, and he is going to win the Pepsi 400. Ryan Newman and Matt Kenseth are in the playoffs, and let's see how the rest of things shake out.
A rare caution-free race.
You know, that's pretty amazing. It says a lot about the quality and true talent of these NASCAR Winston Cup drivers.
The Napa car ran in clean air pretty much all race long.
Now, this was a race he'll always remember. What a great feeling it must be to win a race in such a dominant fashion.
We're out of time tonight. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.
Frank Kimmel is also on pit road as well. Ended up blowing a motor. This is basically a glorified qualifying lap. See the unofficial results on the screen. Michael Waltrip needed this finish. He is in the playoffs. Now we're going to see where Kevin Harvick's at. Craven needs to finish at least 10 spots ahead of Harvick. Kurt Busch is 10th, but unfortunately, he will not be in the playoffs. As we look through the rest of the field, some of these other guys, like the playoff drivers that were already clinched, it was basically a tune-up race. Matt Kenseth was able to get in. His goal was to finish. He had enough points. Same with the 12 of Ryan Newman. There it is. Craven could not get in, which means Kevin Harvick will take the last playoff spot, even though he finished last with a blown motor. Craven finished 41st. Wow. You want drama? We got drama. You want action? Well, not tonight. We didn't have a whole lot of action, but in the future we will. How about that? 9 wins, 4 wins for Gordon. Jimmy Johnson, with him winning the regular season championship, he will end up taking the 3rd seed, since we are seeding by wins in this format. So 5,000. So Jimmy Johnson will be seeded 3rd in the playoffs with 5,015 points. You'll see the awards for the night on the screen. Manufacturers Award, and the EA Sports Lap Champion Award for the race. Dylan Merway's pretty much ran away with it. We're going to make an update. A post for the 16 drivers will be announced later tonight. Next Sunday at 12:30, the playoffs will begin at Darlington.